Come around. Yeah. Okay. Give me a second with that. It's just streaming on there, and then I'll come in. You okay to hold this?
Sure.
Would you prefer on the stand?
I'll hold it.
You sure? Yeah. Okay, so you can just sit there. Just as let's get rid of the tension and just start. Make sure you just hold it close to you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لم يكن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين منفكين حتى تأتيهم البينة رسول من الله يتلو صحفا مطهرة فيها كتب قيمة وما تفرق الذين أوتوا الكتاب إلا من بعد ما جاءتهم البينة وما أمروا إلا ليعبدوا الله مخلصين له الدين حنفاء ويقيمون الصلاة ويؤتوا الزكاة وذلك الدين القيمة إن الذين كفروا من أهل الكتاب والمشركين في نار جهنم خالدين فيها أولئك هم شر البرية إن الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات أولئك هم خير البرية جزاؤه عند ربهم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا رضي الله عنه ورضوا عنه ذلك لمن خشي الرب صدق الله العلي العظيم.
So it's been a while since we've done one of these, the guided meditation. So it's quite short. It's 8 minutes. Hopefully the sound works okay, but we'll give it a go. Thanks, John.
Salam. Welcome to the gratitude meditation. Move yourself to a comfortable position. You can do this meditation while sitting or lying down. Whichever position you choose, shift around till your mind and body settle. And when you're ready, you may close your eyes. With your eyes closed, connect with your breath. Take in a slow, deep breath. Feel yourself slow down and prepare for gratitude. Bring your attention to your breath. Notice what it feels like as the air enters your nose. Notice how your stomach and chest rise with each inhale and fall with each exhale. Take a moment to appreciate your breath that makes life possible. A simple blessing which is easy to forget, but now We are grateful for it. Try to remain aware of the breath till the end of the meditation. But if you get distracted, that is totally fine. It is part of the meditation. Just bring your attention back to your breath. Now take a moment to call to mind a relationship or a friendship in your life that you are grateful for. Imagine this person in your mind and contemplate what is it about this person that you truly appreciate. Now call to mind any recent situations or events that happened in your life that you are grateful for. Now think about the personal qualities that you possess, that you are grateful for and appreciate. Maybe your honesty, maybe your kindness, whatever it is, be grateful that you have this quality. Now take a few more deep breaths. Again, an even deeper breath than the one before. Call to mind some of the material things that you have, that you appreciate, and that make you feel good. Bring to mind a kind act that you did for someone and thank God for helping you to be kind in that moment. Let your mind explore whatever else you are grateful for and truly appreciate. Notice what you're feeling now in this moment as you experience this feeling of gratitude. Become familiar with the sensations gratitude creates in your mind and body. And let's keep on to this feeling because this is how it should feel when we say Alhamdulillah. Now, from this space of gratitude, let's make some prayers. Ask God to have your heart opened to feel the gifts and blessings that you have in your life. Ask for God's light to fill the darkness in your life. Ask God to help you use the blessings you have in order to spread goodness and kindness in the world. And now it is almost time to end this meditation. Thank yourself for taking these few minutes to do something positive for yourself and to cultivate gratefulness in your life. At your own pace, become aware of the sounds within the room. Feel the surface beneath you. Take in a nice, slow, deep breath. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, so today's session is the second part of the Reflections on Dua Kumail by Hasnain Panjwani. Please welcome him with the salawat. What did I say?
I'm afraid I haven't prepared that.
Which dua? What did I say? Sorry. Dua Kumail. Oh my God, I didn't realize. Sorry. Dua Arafat. You were getting worried then, weren't you?
Okay. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Like last time, I'm going to follow the same format, and the format is obviously sections of the dua based on the book, and then some reflections and some questions back to yourselves. But in order to do that, there's a lot of the dua on the screen. So I hope that the people at the back can read, and if you can't read, then feel free to come forward. And this is the standard ask of everyone. But if you're happy where you are, I'm happy that. But just make sure you can read the screen. Okay. So what I need to do is just give you a summary of where we were last time, and then we can move on to the next sections. So Dua Arafah, we talked about dua as being one of those things which we know from the Aimma, we know from the Imams, the Ahlul Bayt, the Prophet, and other Rasuls, that it was a way that they communicated with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what we've sort of made it into is a way that if we recite it, we think that, oh, we've done our dua. And what we discussed last time is obviously it can be one of many items, but one of the most important items is one to reflect or to recognize how the Imam perceived life and their relationship with God. So it's more of a learning tool for us as opposed to a dua between me and God, because some of the words are so high, and we obviously need to feel those words to actually have the impact. And sometimes these things don't happen. And so what we're looking at in these sessions is really looking at trying to understand the perspective of Imam Hussein. And we said, well, Sheikh says in his book, says that trying to understand how Imam Hussein could be so, if you remember, be so calm, be so relaxed, as we may say, in those days leading up to Ashura and on the day of Ashura. What made him and his companions joke, for example, we talked about that, or be so calm as he was going to fight. You know, we hear the story or the narration or the story of his daughter stopping him and him actually getting off his horse and allowing that time, those minutes, to just not think about anything else, but just allowing that daughter to have some relaxation. What made him feel so confident and comfortable to have that happen before he knows he's going to fight? Other people might want to get ready and feel and say, like, you know, okay, go back in the tent now, it's my time to go. But he didn't do that. So we talked about this and reflecting in the dua about how he feels that way. So I need to go through all the pages before and get to where we are now. Right, so this is reflecting on section 5 to 8. So I said we are witnessing Imam's understanding of God and the world. He describes God, reminds himself of his humbleness, his loneliness. This is what the first sections of dua said. Yet he reminds himself, and in return ourselves, about the level or the importance of human beings. That God put so much effort in his words to look after the human journey before even existence, and then moving through the existence of that human being and throughout till death, and then the next journey, and that God taking care of him, of that human being, not he as an imam, but the human existence. And he reminds ourselves and himself that it wasn't without guidance. The guidance came in a number of methods: direct knowledge to our hearts, life events, those moments inspiring us, and then the teachings of the Prophet. And we mentioned that the teachings of the Prophet came last. However, all of those other guidances were there throughout. And then he expresses how we can't just fathom our insignificance, yet we are so important. And this was the part of the dua which I thought encompassed a lot of what we were talking about. It says, "Oh Allah, I willingly desire you, and I testify the lordship." And we mentioned about Rububiyyah and Rabb. You are my Lord. So there's two differences here. And then I will come back to you. And that encompasses that journey of humanity. So in looking at all of that, we've sort of understood or encompassed where we are as human beings. And now the next number of sections is reflecting on, okay, I understand what this life is about. What do I do about it myself? And that's where we come on to now. And this section 5 is about shukr. And Sheikh talks about shukr and talks about the levels of shukr and what Imam reflects as shukr in his dua. So let's have a look at a few of the pages, a few of the verses rather. So last time I allowed you to read, I read some of them. I'll allow you to read through it because part of these sessions is for you also to reflect on the dua through the words itself. So Imam has basically been talking to God about those bounties that he talked about previously. And then he gets to a stage where he says, or he asks, He bears witness. I bear witness. Oh my God, with my true belief. And then there's a whole section of things that he's used to bear witness to. And we'll get later on to what he's bearing witness. But he's, like in the Quran, we hear that God swears by the sun, the moon. And so Imam is bearing witness by these various items to something. And we need to see what that something is. And we will recognize what that something is in a moment. But what's interesting is how much when you bear witness, when you try to explain to somebody but you can't explain, you try and use lots and lots of words. We start spewing off things, this and that, and we try and use examples. And I'm sure we've all been through it. I mean, I'm trying to do it now, and I'm trying to say extra words which I don't need to say. And actually, that's because there's something there which you can't really explain. So he bears witness through all these items. I'm going to go through it. But what's very interesting and what's very special is, and I don't know the Arabic, and those of you who know Arabic better than I do will be able to reflect on the actual translation. And sometimes these translations aren't the best, but we can have a go at looking at all of these things. So let's just go through. So what does he bear witness? One is his faith, his consciousness, his sight, his lines on his forehead, the courses of his breath, the cavities of his nose, his he, whatever that means, lips, tongue, mouth, jaw, teeth, taste, tube of my tissues, of the tissues of my neck, the cloak of my chest, the cord of the aorta, cords of the heart, pieces of my liver, ribs, joints. It's basically everything which keeps him going, everything which makes him him as a body, as a person, as a human being, physically. Extremities of my fingertips, flesh, blood, hair, skin, nerves, body, brain, all of my organs, the sleeping, the wakefulness. What is it that he is saying, is bearing witness to? What is the thing that really he can't explain without sharing all of these things? Anyone hazard a guess what this thing is? It's obviously related to shukr, but we all know it. We've all heard it. That if I try and thank you, I will not be able to do it properly, because thanking you requires a favor from you to me to thank you. And therefore I need to thank you for that favor. So it never stops. Imam has to explain to himself, he's talking to God, but he's reminding himself about all of these items to the level and to the extent that he can't enumerate, he can't explain the fact that he can't give thanks properly without giving thanks for the ability to give thanks. We've all heard it, haven't we? But now we can see all the thing that came before it, all the aspects that Imam had to go through to remind himself before he got, not just saying it, you know what? All these bounties you give me, like we say, and you give me another bounty and I can't give you thanks for that, but it's witnessing everything in my body before I say that. And that's quite a deep and detailed perspective. So what I'll do there is I'll just hold and pause on that for our own reflections. He goes on, not just there, he goes on to say that I have to praise, and if I try hard to praise you, to count the scope, to count the time, I'll never be able to number all these blessings and these counts, the times that I can praise you. And this is too much to do. And then he explains, he gives a verse of the Quran, and if you count Allah's favors, you will not be able to number them. So he's relating it back to that. So, what is this opportunity to reflect for us, and how can we convert that practically? If you remember last time, I also put some questions. There are some questions which would be great if we can interact with. Dua from the Aimah is a way to understand how they perceived God. Imam was witnessing everything related to himself before he explained to himself that he couldn't really count the bounties and thank effectively, properly. And really relating it back to Karbala and understanding how did this perspective help that individual at that point when everything around him, in our eyes, was falling apart. And if everything around me is a blessing or a bounty, then actually I can see it in a different way. And perhaps why I put that at the end, that's another of the companions. Zainab, we hear says that, a similar perspective, that actually it is all bounties. It's just how we see it. So the questions I ask myself and to ourselves is, how do we reach this type of stage? And practically, how can we convert our own lives into a level where we can move even a little bit closer to it? Because a lot of the times we ask ourselves the question, we say, yeah, I want to say thanks to everything around me, but how do we get to that stage where I actually mean it? And sometimes I might ask myself the question, and I think I mentioned this last time, which is, if I say thanks for, and I've heard this, if I say thanks to the ability to breathe, Imam's not actually saying that, but let's say, if I say thanks to the ability to breathe, but why do I need to show gratitude for my breath when actually, for the lungs I've been given to breathe, actually I could have been created without lungs and I breathe in a different way. Yeah, it's not why I haven't, and reflecting back on maybe some of Sheikh Aris' talks and what he said in the past, that, it's not, I didn't ask for it. I didn't ask to be this way, so do I need to say thanks for this way of, but actually what I'm reflecting on is Imam's not saying thanks for all these bodily, physical members. He's saying that I can't thank you for everything, for existence. And all of this is part of that. It's a wider thanks, not for these material things. And then the second question is, and I'm going to come to you guys if I can it be forced? Can somebody be asked to say thanks? Now, Jawad says in the book, for example, he went into a lecture and there was a child and a mother, and the mother said to the child, go and take a picture with that sheikh. And the child saying, I don't want to. And the mother forced that because he says, you need to take a picture. I want to show you when you're older, and you'll thank me because you met him. And the kid didn't want to. Is that something that we should do? And can it be forced to say, go and appreciate where you are? Because sometimes, perhaps, if you force it originally, you might start the process. That's not where you want to end up. But those of you with children, I say, well, maybe that is a way to get there. I don't know. There's different perspectives on it. And then, should it be, and in order to reach there, should shukr, is there a place, there is spelled wrong, but is there a place for fear as a starting point to shukr? Should we be saying, you need to be scared of something before I can actually appreciate and be thankful for it? So just a few seconds and any reflections on that at this point. Sorry, these are questions. Any thoughts? I can always rely on one person in the room to share.
I think, well, the way I see things is, I think gratitude has to happen from within by yourself. It's not something that's forced. And it has to start with the small things first. Because I feel that, for example, and I'm talking only for myself, that usually it ends up just being lip service. So you know how to teach children just to say thank you when somebody gives you something. or just tasbih alhamdulillah, but we actually not stopping to think about that, maybe just that one particular thing, and really feel how much it means to me. And then I feel that gratitude will be more genuine. So I feel that's something, maybe a process that you have to build on until the thanks becomes, from the heart. And then in time you can hopefully reach that stage where everything that you experience, even things that might seem negative or challenging, you can be grateful for them as well, because then you reach that understanding that everything comes from God and He's a witness to whatever is happening. That's part of my growth.
Yep.
And I wouldn't get where I need to be if I don't go through these things. So I think shifting the perspective from positivity from negativity, because we tend to always focus on the things we don't have or the things that we want or the things that we haven't been given, and shifting to actually the things that we already have, and actually so many.
Mm-hmm. You said earlier that taking the time to appreciate before actually feeling it. We are now probably maybe a third or maybe up to a quarter through the dua, maybe even closer to a half. What did we do? What did Imam do all the times before? What I just summarized is that all of that time was taken actually doing what you said, reflecting. So if I say thank you to somebody, if I want to mean that to that person, perhaps I'll go back home, I'll see what that person has given me as a gift, I'll use it, I'll reflect on that use, and then I might call up that person again and say, thank you so much for it. And that's the meaning, that's the real shukr, the really gratitude, isn't it? And so it takes time. But what's interesting is that even though Imam might have been at this stage, he took the time, and this is my reflection, he took the time to reflect on all of that again before he got to that stage where he said thank you. And so sometimes you're right, we might do it because we feel we have to do it, or we feel we should be saying thank you. But equally, if we want to mean it, every time we want to give thanks to somebody or God, perhaps learning from the Imam, we should take time out to reflect on all the things and say it out loud before we get to the thanks. That's what I've taken. Otherwise, you say thanks straight away. But the thanks didn't come straight away. It just was the whole perspective about God at the beginning and all the stuff that He's done for humanity before it got to the position of thank you. And that, to me, that was interesting. Any other thoughts? What about, go, yes.
And we also look, well, majority of people look at other people and what they have, people who have more than them. So I think one of the things that advantages as well is that keep grateful for what you have, but also don't compare yourself with people who have more than you, but people who have less. Like, for example, someone who's ill, someone who doesn't have jobs, for example, things that you have.
Absolutely, yeah. And that allows you to, that comparison, or not comparison, or reflecting consciously about not comparing, then allows you to just focus on the present, what you have. But yeah, our society is so easy to get embroiled into everything else around us rather than ourselves. Yeah. Okay, anything else? What about the forcing aspect? Is that something that, I know you said no, but when we're younger, is it, how do we get that level of gratitude of our youngsters without saying, go and say thanks, go and say, appreciate what you've been given, and forcing them to do so? Even to each other.
I think love is there as well as, so when you see a child that can relate to somebody that has a certain, relationship, is comfortable with them, then it's easier for them to find that person to appreciate and also the value of what they've been given. So I think for a child, what might have value might be just a bar of chocolate and ice cream, but for him means a lot, makes them happy. And as you grow older, you evolve, and things that mean something to you will change.
Yep, thank you. So.
I think also it's the meaning of the word thank you. So we children, sometimes we're just teaching them teaching them what it means or what appreciation really is. And I think that's also something important by taking some time and trying to understand that. And not only you may receive something that the child might say, well, I didn't want that, I don't like it, and they want to say thank you as words. But if you start from the other point of the perspective of the person who gave, they took time to think about you, and give you this, and I think it's just explaining.
Yeah, and that's that reflection on here, is it? It's reflecting on the other person, God, rather than the thing I've got, and the thanking is of the individual. So yeah, that's interesting. Can you imagine that person went to this extent to get you that chocolate? Now, how do you feel about that person? That's an interesting perspective. Okay, so section 6 in the book. So these are not quite in. If you ever read the Arafat, they're not quite clear sections, but they are. You can almost sectionalize it. And so Sheikh Jawad has given the next section of khashya, and this is the title of today's. But it goes beyond that, which is fear, but fear in the sense of amazement, awe, isn't it? So we'll have a look at some of these. So may Allah send blessings to his select. Muhammad, seal of the prophets, the household. Allahumma ja'alni akhshaka ka'anna arak. Oh Allah, please make me fear, its translation is fear, you as if I can see you. And then another fear, but this is a different type of fear, make me happy by fearing you or by having taqwa. And then do not make me unhappy by disobeying you. Choose for me through your decree, and we'll come on to that. Bless me through your determination. So khashya, not a negative fear. A lot of you probably know this, yeah? Khashya, khawf, taqwa, these are all translated as fear in the Quran, but they're not all applied to the same meaning. And the fear of khashya and khawf, the fear of khashya is about awe, and the fear of khawf is the real scared fear. There's a Quranic verse. You can only warn those who follow the reminder and are in awe. Wa khashiya Rahman, the most compassionate Rahman. And it's interesting that a lot of people here might talk about we've grown up in the fear of God, and we should be growing up in the love of God. And this is what we hear a lot. And obviously Sheikh Jawad talks about that a lot in his general talks, is it's all about the love. What type of love is khashya, and how does that relate? But interestingly, while I was doing the research in a previous topic, not for this lecture, but a Quran Club session, came across some things about khashya. And I don't know the detail of this, but there's an interesting, sorry, I forget, I'm moving on here. Let me just go back briefly. There's the Quranic verse. You can only warn those who follow the reminder and are in awe of the most merciful khashya Rahman. And then there's a distinguished between khashya and khawf, this scholar, saying the khawf is due to the anticipation of negative consequences of sinning, and khashya is an awareness of the greatness of God and the anticipation of being deprived from his grace. But this is very interesting, is that, and those of you who are, I'm not sure if any of you were in the Quran session that we did this at home, but there is a journal article saying that in the past, some of the scholars, not the long past, but the more recent past, some of the scholars used khawf and a verse in the Quran, 35:28, where it says, only the knowledgeable are in awe or khashya of Allah, saying that only the ulama can reach a level of awe, and everyone else, the layman, need to be khawf, need to be fear. And so they use that in a way to control the thought process of the general people. And that became the teaching mechanism that you need to be scared, khawf, 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 of God. So how much detail this is and how widespread it is, I haven't gone into detail, but there's the paper. But it's interesting to see that actually things have, people have used khawf as a way of control, and it's not just reflection of the Quran. Khashya can be used in other verses of the Quran which actually allow to say that everyone can have that awe of God as well. So this is the verse. This is the line in the dua. Please make me fear as if I can see you. And that's interesting because after everything Imam is saying, this is almost the first request of God. It's the first dua. When we do dua, we say, can I have this? Can I have this? Can I have this? This is the first time Imam's actually requesting something. And what is he requesting? He's requesting to have awe of God as if I can see you in front of it. Isn't that what each one of us would request? Let me go to the edge of a mountain and look out, and that's the type of awe I want to have. So if anything, let me be that first request, first dua of any dua I have. Let me see you, let me fear you, let me feel you as if I can see you. It's a very, very simple line, but it comes after everything before, enumerating the bounties, seeing what the majesty of God is, saying, I really can't count your blessings, and now make me continue to fear you or to be in awe of you as if I can see you. So my reflection, my questions, are there stages to getting to khashya? Do we need to start off with fear? Because the Quran does says the knowledgeable ones have awe. And it's natural if you want to say, if somebody tells you, I went up to the Mount Kilimanjaro and I looked out across from the top and looked at the horizon, and I was just awestruck at the amazement of the view. You can say that. But if I go I say, I can imagine that, but actually I might feel more, I'm on the top of the mountain, I might fear, It might start off with that scaredness. Actually, I'm worried about going. Or let's say mountains different. Let's say at top of the Grand Canyon, a cliff edge. That's real. Or I'm scared. Does it start off with that? And then when you get there, then you see it. So, do I need to have khawf first? Why does the Quran use both terms? But khashya is those with knowledge. What does having knowledge mean? And actually, ultimately, can we pray for it? The answer is we can pray for it because the Imam has said so. So any thoughts, any reflections on that before we go to the next section? I need to hurry up a little bit. It's fine, we can move on if there's no reflections. That's fine. Okay. So the next two sections are then the continuation of what we would generally talk of as a dua. Because you and I, or me at least, thinks a dua is asking for something. So now Imam's finally got to the stage where he's asking for something. But before that, he is just reminding himself that even though he asks for something, God's the ultimate. He has to surrender to what happens, regardless of what he asks for. So he started by describing God, describing God's love, how God communicates, experiences God's love in his life. That leads to shukr and khashya, and then that leads to absolute surrender. And this is what he says. So we saw the first thing. He asked for khashya as if I can see you, happy with being conscious of you, not happy when I disobey you, and then surrendering. But whatever you decree is fine, and whatever you decide is what I accept. There's a hadith of Imam Ali, which says, Sheikh has referenced in his book, says that when he went to Miraj, Prophet went to Miraj, he asked God, what's the best action? And God said, There is nothing better to me than relying on me and being pleased with my decree. So whether it's the references in here, if you want to have a look. So that's the first stage. I want this, but I'm happy with your decree. Why do I need to remind myself of that? So I don't, when I ask all the things that I'm going to ask, I don't feel bad if they are delayed, and I will not long for. I will not like wish that they come quicker, or I will not worry, or I'll not think things which are quicker, which are delayed. I won't worry about it. Yeah, I think that's what it says. So that is the surrender part, and then let's move on to the questions, the requests of God. So the first 5 requests: make me be in awe of you as if I can see you. Make me be happy through consciousness of you. Do not make me unhappy by disobeying you. Choose your decree. I will not long for anything else. And make that which strengthens me come from inside me and not from external sources. And then I'll come back to this. And then he asked these. So, have sincerity in my deeds, light in my sight, insight in my religion. Make me find enjoyment in my organs. Make my hearing and sight inherited sound. Grant me victory over the one who wrongs me. Make me witness in my revenge. Make delight in my art. Relieve my agony. Conceal my flaws. Forgive my sins. Drive away the devil from me. Redeem my mortgage. Rehani, not sure what that means. And decide for me the supreme rank in the hereafter and the former life. This is Imam asking. Would we ask for anything different? We might not be as eloquent, but to me, it's pretty standard. It's like what a normal human being would ask for. Conceal my sin, conceal my deficiencies, forgive my sins, help me against those who have wronged me, make me enjoy my taste, my organs. All of these things are pretty much the standard things that anyone would ask for. Conceal my flaws. Grant me victory over the one who wrongs me. Make my deeds sincere. These are just normal. They're pretty standard, aren't they? There's nothing special in there. And so to me, this all, reflection of me is that actually the Imam is just asking very simply, all of these things I've recognized, actually this is, as long as I accept that I need to be in awe of you and whatever you decide is the ultimate, here are the things I actually just want. And then he goes on. He goes on to say a few things about Lord. He can't stop himself from describing God again. And then again. So he has to go back and describe God and say, you are great and you are all of this. And then these are, again, pretty simple requests. Help me against the calamities of ages, of time, the change of the day of night. Rescue me from the horrors of this world and the anguishes of the hereafter. Save me from the evils of what the wrongdoers do in the earth. O Allah, as what I anticipate, save me from it. As to what I watch out, protect me from it. Safeguard me in my soul and my religion. Watch over me in my journeys. Be with me. Be in charge of my family members and my properties during my absence when I go away. Look after them. Bless me with sustenance and make me humble. Fairly, I say this with sincerity, respect, bog standard requests, things which I think, at least I would think about if I'm reciting a dua. So, yes, Imam is up here. He's reflected on all these amazing things. But actually, when he's asking for very simple requests with the knowledge that actually ultimately what I want is the fear of God as if I can see you and the consciousness, and I'm happy with whatever happens. But these are the things that actually, if you can grant me, I'd be quite comfortable with, quite nice, quite happy with. Okay. And I'm going to almost end there. There are a few more items which actually, if you read and you reflect on, there's quite a lot in there to read and think about. But if I summarize, whoops. If I summarize, shukr and khashya have levels. Start off with just saying it, but we get to different levels, to a level where we actually appreciate the things, but more so we appreciate the being or the person who's given it to us. He continued to reflect. It leads to a deep state of surrender, which means whatever happens, I'm happy with. I'm in your arms, but even though I'm in your arms, I ask for a few bits and pieces which will help me through the journey of life and make my life easier. But actually, it doesn't matter what happens, I will accept it, I'll take it on. And so if you're reflecting on Karbala and what happened, I can start to recognize how somebody can be so calm, actually feel for the enemies or the other side. A question I might ask myself is, when I have that decree, when I'm comfortable with the decree, how far do I go in, the Imam Ali's quote about tying the camel, and how much do I just let go and happen? Things to think about. So I put going to the tents. That reminds me about, we hear the narration that Imam was near the water and the enemies went to the tents and he went back. He could have said, God, save them, but he didn't. He knows that I have to do something about it. So he went back to save them. So there's part of accepting God's decree and part of doing everything I can in the moment. And then the final reflection for me is thinking, well, if I see the journey, I don't know why this example came to me, but the story about the going on a bear hunt or whatever, you know what you're going to get. Sorry, I've got young children. You know what you're going to get. You're going to find a bear, but you have to go through the storm and the water and all of those things. The ones who don't appreciate. So if you're taking a child, if you're taking a young person, come to the shops with me, and they're shouting and screaming, they don't want to do that because it's annoying to sit in the car and it's hot and I'm tired. I don't want to walk so much. We know the end product, which we'll get something, but they don't. And so this is just reflecting, actually, I know that the end is a good end. I will just accept whatever my parents take me because I trust them and I know that I can trust them. And this is that relationship. And that's where I'll end. Any final thoughts? I know I skipped a section. The section that I skipped was how he looks on life. And one of the sentences where he looks on life, he essentially is asking about more things about seeing that actually life is about covering up the faults, helping me through life by not allowing people to see my faults. Again, asking these things and seeing that actually victory and success is not about the instances you have in life, but actually the longer term goal. So that was just those few sections. This is quite a deeper detail because we've got into the heart of the dua. So I hope that it hasn't been the first section was a lot more thinking about things. This is just the detail of it. It really, if you can go and reflect on that part of the dua, it'd be very interesting for us ourselves. I found it very helpful. So, just a suggestion for us to do the same. Is there any final thoughts? Anything anyone wants to add to it? I forgot to mention where I said this last part, Imam looks at life through the lens of being in God's arms. That was that looking at life, section 8. And I thought, actually, before I finish, if I do go back, it was this line here, this first line. Anta kahfi hina tu'ini ini. You are my haven when the wide courses fail to carry me, And when the earth, despite its width, becomes too narrow to bear me, he's reminding himself that at the end of the day, whatever happens in the earth, you are my haven to go to. And that's where, arms of God, that's what I just reflected on. Okay. Thank you very much for listening. Please can we recite a Surah Fatiha for all our marhumeens and those who are ill, Al-Fatiha. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Hasnain, for this. Just a few announcements. First of all, our program next Thursday, 10th of August. So we've had quite a few requests following Sheikh Arif's Muharram lectures that I think a few of us felt a bit lost and needed, a better understanding and opportunity to reflect on those lectures. So inshallah, next Thursday we'll hold a discussion based on Sheikh Arif's Muharram lectures. Our guest speaker will be Dr. Fanai, who has kindly agreed to, inshallah, explain further, what was discussed in the lectures. And that's also be the perfect opportunity for all of us to ask questions and express our views on the subject. The discussion will be facilitated by Sister Tessin Merali. So if you haven't listened to all of Sheikh's lectures, I would strongly encourage to do so before next week, and also bring any questions you may have. Please note that there will be no recording for next week. Also, next week, Friday, 11th August, from 12 p.m., Time for Fun is organizing a family outing to Umberslade Adventure Park, which is an outdoor adventure center. This trip is open to all, and more details will be shared on our WhatsApp group tomorrow, inshallah. As usual, we would kindly appreciate your donations to help us to run Time for Change programs. You can donate by cash in the box by the refreshments or on the PayPal link that's shared on our WhatsApp group. You can also come and see me if you would like to make any donations by card. You can also sponsor a program for your marhumin for £10 per name. Refreshments today will be served in the conference room. And if I can please ask you all to recite a Surah Fatiha for all marhumin.